All right, welcome back here. We have got our next series on the way, and it's going to be a slobber knocker. We have got Reynor going up against Oliveira here in a match to decide who does all right. We'll see how it goes.
Oh yeah,
epic.
So
well
epic.
Explained. Thank you.
I love when the players play to see who does all right. That's so much on the line.
It's the goal for this event, right?
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Who does the all rightest?
No. Let's talk about it. I've got Loco as well as Wadi here to talk about this one. But it's an exciting one, actually, genuinely, because this is technically a rematch, of course, from Katowice and how everything went down here. And it's two of the absolute pristine names when it comes to the foreign scene.
Yeah, Oliveira, of course, had that miracle run at IEM Katowice. I mean, we discuss it all the time whenever we're at the StarCraft tournament, but it really was a beautiful event. He ended up playing against a lot of the good players, right? So first off, he faced against Hero Marine, and we're like, yeah, Hero Marine's probably the favorite going into that match. Then he faced against Reynor. That's the match you're obviously referencing. He ended up taking down Reynor, then he won against Hero, and then he won against Maru in the grand finals. Just a run that I think we'll probably talk about for as long as StarCraft 2 is going to be around for, because that was amazing.
Yeah, it's not only the dream run, it's probably the dream run of all time in StarCraft 2 when you look at the kind of history and how things have gone down, Wadi. But these two going up against one another, I think despite Oliveira being the world champion, I think people would still put stock behind Reynor here in terms of a head-to-head.
He's a previous world champion too, and yeah, he lost Oliveira in Katowice. The thing is, after Katowice, right, Oliveira's not kept to the level, right? He's been good, and he's had some good results, but consistency has definitely been a thing. So I think that's one thing we have to think about straight away. Oliveira did go 1-2 against Solo earlier, but that was still a loss. And if you tell me the world champion's taking on Solo, I'd probably favor the world champion if I didn't know who the world champion was.
Right, yeah.
But it was Oliveira this time. He lost to Solo. I think that might be a little sign of things to come, because I think Reynor, yeah, he lost 0-2 to Classic, but I think his ZVT has been looking so good recently. We know he delivers at these big events. It would be a shock to see Reynor at 0-2 in this group stage.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it might be a shock to see the reigning world champ 0-2 as well, but
in theory,
again, that's kind of part of the story, the kind of the dreamlike run that he had. It was a bit dreamlike, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oliveira, if we can forget about Katowice, Oliveira, I expect him to do okay in this event, but I don't think he makes playoffs, if we forget Katowice. But Katowice puts the expectations on him, so yeah, a lot of interesting things to think about, I guess. Excited to see what goes down, because it could be wild. I'm excited to see what Oliveira brings, especially. Yeah,
for me, I think I've got to try and sum up what you're saying. I always get, at present, mixed signals from what we can expect from Oliveira. I mean, like, obviously, we didn't see him in Yonchaping, unfortunately, but now we get to see him offline once again. Maybe it is a completely different story, because Games Without Borders didn't fill us with much confidence, Loco. It was only that very last qualification match that was able to push him here to the forefront to Gamers8.
Yeah, so at IEM Katowice, it seemed like he was just playing at a few hundred MMR higher than he had been playing before, you know? Like, some players just have those moments where at an offline event, they suddenly seem to be better than ever before. I always kind of feel like that's the case with Cyril, where he just plays better at offline events than most of the other pro gamers, even many that have a lot of experience over the years. And it seemed for at least, you know, IEM Katowice, the World Championships, that Oliveira had a very similar situation too, where suddenly he just powered up and he seemed better than ever before. So yeah, maybe once again, right? It's a big tournament here, Gamers8.
Yeah.
Maybe once again we'll be able to find some success here.
By the same token, on the other side, Reynor, as you mentioned, Wadi, it would be a surprise to see someone like Reynor down 0-2, and in the matchup in ZVT, you know, he's no slouch, no slouch.
He is absolutely no slouch. He's really, really good, man. He is. He's been popping off a little bit lately. I know he took a little bit of chill time, and if you look at his online results, you might not be super impressed, but when you realize he's been traveling a whole bunch, he had to go back to Italy to do some exams, for example, and like when you consider that, it's like, okay, you know, maybe he didn't look perfect online, but the fact that he's knuckled down and gotten ready for this event gets you excited, right? And again, it wasn't the start we wanted, but he clearly has a thing about Classic, because Classic's won like 3 in a row against him, right? So going into ZVT, I would be shocked if Reynor doesn't put up, at the very least, a very good fight, but honestly, I feel like he might come in and steamroll, because I feel like he gets fired up off that loss earlier as well, you know?
And the Home Story Cup isn't exactly, you know, on the scale of what we see here at Gamers8, but it's still an extremely high-level tournament. And obviously, it just comes off the back of being the champion there, Loco. You were there watching how that all played out. So, Reynor, there looked great.
Yeah. He definitely looked really solid at that tournament, and I think when he went into that particular event, which really wasn't that long ago, it's just a couple weeks, I guess, at this point, right?
Exactly.
I don't think he necessarily expected that he would win the whole thing, because he was doing a lot of traveling and he was going around making sure that he had all kinds of stuff that he needed to take care of, like passport things and all kinds of stuff. So he had a lot of things going on at the time. He was practicing a bit here and there, and then he ended up, well, winning the whole event, right? So recently, over the last couple of weeks, I think he's had a bit more time to chill and really focus on this event as well. So, I would be very surprised if he ends up going 0-2.
My favorite thing about Home Story Cup was the run back against Cyril. I know it's a different matchup, but bear with me a second here because Reynor said as soon as he lost to Cyril in Jönköping, Audi, that he knew exactly what he was going to do the next time around.
Yeah.
So, like, seeing that kind of mental game from someone like Reynor shows just how smart he is and being able to adapt against the very best players in the world, and that's what makes Reynor stand out.
That's very true, but actually if I had one comment about Reynor, it might be his mental game, because sometimes in that series against Oliveira and Katowice, he kind of like he loses a game, he's like, man, Terran can be kind of dumb, you know, I was doing well in this game and Terran gets back in it. And he might not fully believe it, but sometimes I feel like you can kind of see it, and like sometimes then it kind of gets a little bit on tilt. I do think that is something which maybe comes into play. So don't lose game one, Reynor.
There you go. It's world champ versus world champ here in a current 0-1 situation for both of them. Let's head on over to the stage to figure it out.
Fancy, we've got an incredible match coming up. It is the the run back, we'll call it, of IEM Katowice Grand Finals.
That's exactly what we have. أعزائنا المشاهدين، المباراة هذه شاهدناها في نهائي IEM كاتوفيتسا في هذه السنة. كلنا عرفنا وش صار في هذه المباراة لأنها حرفياً كانت مباراة تاريخية، لكن اليوم راح نشاهدها مرة ثانية في Gamers8.
Two incredible players here. Reynor, of course, a crowd favorite, playing for Italy, and Oliveira coming from China, the youngest player ever to make Grandmaster on the Chinese server.
That's something that everyone needs to know. أعزائنا المشاهدين اللي ما يدري، رينر هو يعتبر أصغر اللاعبين اللي قدر إنه يجيب الجراند ماستر في سيرفر كوريا، وقت ما كانت أصلاً جداً صعب إنك تحصل على الرانك هذا أصلاً في كوريا، فمع كذا قدر إنه يسويها. لكن اليوم جاي يثبت لنا بعد ما خسر مباراته في IEM كاتوفيتسا، الآن راح يعيدها مرة ثانية لأنه له فترة طويلة ما لعب ضده في لان.
Yeah, we got a special little taste of this at Gamers Without Borders as well, so another run back from that matchup. Can't wait to see which of them comes out on top this time.
It was crazy. Oliveira lost that match 3-0, so Reynor has the upper hand so far in the latest matches, but is it going to be another one from IEM كاتوفيتسا or not? We're going to find out. أعزائنا المشاهدين في آخر مباريات واجه فيها IEM كاتوفيتسا، بعدها شفناهم يتواجهون في Gamers Without Borders وأيضا في الأفريكا تي في تشامبيونز. دائما رينر يكون هو الفائز. So we're about to find out.
Yeah, I think our two players are ready to show us another fantastic match. So without a doubt, let's meet player one. Representing DKZ Gaming, it's Oliveira! First at the ESL SC2 Masters Summer Asia in May 2023. First at IEM Katowice in 2023. And the list goes on. I could do it now though. There's first at DreamHack StarCraft 2 Masters 2022 Atlanta, China. Amazing player.
أوليفيرا زي ما احنا عارفين هو بطل العالم حاليا في ستاركرافت 2، خصوصا انه حتى قبل فتره جدا قصيره قدر انه يفوز الستاركرافت سمر، حتى الماسترز قدر انه ياخذ المركز الاول. ف يعني حدث ولا حرج ان هذا اللاعب هو اللي جاي يثبت نفسه في هذه البطوله ايضا، بعد ما شاهدنا وش اللي ممكن يسويه في بقيه البطولات. لكن خصمه شاهدناه على المسرح قبل قليل، الان نرجع مره ثانيه نرحب فيه، خلونا على طول نعرف منه. ممثل بفريق بازيلسك رينر. رينر ممكن بدأ رحلته في هذه البطولة بداية سيئة قليلا بعد هزيمته قدام كلاسيك، لكن جاي الآن قدام بطل العالم يبي ياخذ منه اللقب، خصوصا انه هو اللي واجه بطل العالم وخلاه يروح على الماب الخامس عشان يقدر يوصل للفوز. فالمباراة هذه ابدا ما هي غريبة على المسارح العالمية وجاي نشاهدها اليوم في الرياض.
Now, the winner of last month's Home Story Cup, he did fall to Oliveira in the finals of Katowice, but picked up a 3-0 victory in the Gamers Without Borders qualifying match, so it's hard to say who will come out on top here.
زي ما احنا عارفين مجرد ما انه خسر المباراة بعدها شفنا المستوى ثاني مختلف من رينر، فاز على أوليفيرا في المباراة في الأفريكا تي في تشامبيونز، وقدر أيضا انه يفوز عليه في Gamers Without Borders للبطولة اللي تأهل للبطولة هذه، قدر انه يفوز عليه 3-0. فله فترة طويلة ما أخذ عليه ولا ماب، فخلينا نشوف إذا يقدر يسويها الآن ولا لا.
Gentlemen, please join us at the center stage to shake hands.
بالتوفيق كل اللاعبين أعزائنا المشاهدين، مباراة حرفيا عالمية وريماتش جدا عظيم راح نشهده اليوم في الرياض، فخلونا على طول نروح مع المعلقين نتكلم عن الموضوع.
Let's not stand in the way of this game any longer. Let's send it back to the casters to start this match.
Zerg vs Terran match for the ages, Italy against China, and it is of course a rematch of their famed match back at the World Championship. But of course we've seen the Italian stallion come back in fine form recently. That win in Home Story Cup, he looked absolutely unstoppable.
He looked very good then. He certainly made up for his loss on the big stage, the Global Championships, by then taking down Oliveira the next 2 times that they met, Gamers Without Borders, of course, leading into this event, as well as the Champions Cup in the group stage. So Reynor definitely enacted his revenge. He's looking to do so, I suppose, yet again to give him the win in this Swiss format, which, I mean, that would be very, very disturbing if he actually went down again.
Yeah.
But I guess this is where Oliveira perhaps might still shine, is in the offline tournaments, which we haven't seen him again since that Katowice, but then also, I suppose, putting Reynor on the ropes.
Definitely coming in as the underdog, the player on the left there, playing Terran, looking fantastic when he can switch it on. But of course, the Zerg is famous for this matchup specifically. And this map here, Babylon, a very special place to start this series, because this is where Oliveira made that amazing reversal happen. But in the top left side, he seems to be reborn recently. A fantastic Zerg player for Basilisk. It is Reynor.
And in the bottom right, as the blue Terran, we have DKZ's Oliveira.
Oliveira's looking very focused. His initial flight here did actually get overbooked and he got booted off and had to come a day late. So he had to do his meteor a day later than everyone else, but he's been down there in the gym exercising. He's been talking about his strategies and kind of preparing, getting his mindset in the right place. Of course, he had a pretty close series with Solar to start off today, 2-1. And Reynor falling to Classic in the first round. When you're down 0-1, you can only lose 3. Of course, it goes without saying that, you know, you really do need to win this match, but it's just so unlike any other tournament. When you've got such high caliber opponents, it's like, if these two are playing in the losers match, the 0-1 match, there's no easy matches. Even in the next one, if you go down 0-2, they're still all absolute killers waiting for you.
Yeah, usually between these two, they're such high quality players that if they were to lose, they would have a very strong chance then and come back in the rest of the Swiss group stages. And instead, we are where we are, which is like everyone they're going to meet from here on out has a chance to actually take them out, even if perhaps historically that wasn't the case. We have seen a couple of upsets, a couple of surprises, and we could see one again here from Oliveira, who is coming in as the underdog.
Complete.
And you can see they're just scouting here, Oliveira playing nice and safe on Babylon. This is his map, his favorite map. It's a map where he made the reversal complete against Reynor in the World Championship, but in general, it's just a good Terran versus Zerg map because of the lack of space. Reynor is a guy who loves to backstab. He likes to flank around, use his mobility as much as he can. And on a small map like this, with a lot of ledges, a lot of cliffs, the siege tank pushes are very hard to deal with. Oliveira is fantastic at using that momentum to slowly deny areas of the map and start to shut down your space.
Yeah, this was the conclusion to their best of 5 in Katowice, and everyone remembers the games. Many of you might not have actually picked up on Oliveira's explanation of what happened in those games, which was really quite fascinating. The community helped translate his words on it, and it was by that point, as the Reaper almost dies, it was by that point that he picked up on the many mistakes that Reynor was making that entire game from start to finish. So clearly there was something wrong happening towards the game 5, but now that we're a fresh slate, and Reynor has defeated him the last 2 times that they have played, I expect this to be a lot cleaner and really go according to plan for Reynor. Oliveira can throw in a couple of tricky builds, like slight alterations to typical builds that throw off a Zerg player, but I don't think that's actually where we saw his success at that Katowice. That was a dream run, yes, but it was also him showcasing his very good macro and micro.
I like this sneaky creep spread for Reynor. He actually snuck a creep shimmer up to the right, pretending he wanted to get it on the bottom left. So that's actually just going to spread the creep very early. It's these little details that start to add up. Reynor is a master of Zerg versus Terran. He is famous for basically being the first pro player to popularize practicing against multiple opponents at once and really say, look, you know, if you're playing the best guy in the world, someone like Maru, who's in your face, someone like Oliveira, they are so fast, it's hard to get practice against this caliber of opponents. So, hey, let's 1v2, let's 1v3. And suddenly, I need to be absolutely perfect. You know, he basically was the first Zerg to start putting his defensive queens in separate groups, guarding multiple entrances. He'll be spreading creep everywhere at once, even in the middle of battles. And it's his speed which gives him the advantage in this matchup especially, because it is all about the tempo in Zerg versus Terran.
That's certainly true. I remember a few years ago, there was also a concern about just basically not being able to find those Korean Terrans, which that phrase is very special. And then that Archon mode helped kind of replace that to a degree. And Oliveira, if you didn't know, is very much like a Korean Terran. Certainly practices on the Korean server a whole lot. So it might have been a problem in the past, but again, it seems to be figured out by Reynor at this point. And we've seen a very typical game so far. Actually, a Hellion Banshee opener from Oliveira. It is also rather safe. Could find some damage, but if Reynor really is playing with that clean, fresh slate, he's also ready to get, you know, the ball rolling on the victories, then I expect 0 damage from the Hellions and the Banshees.
And the creep is already so far out. Down here in the bottom, the middle, and the top. And the thing with creep is the further it gets on the map, the more paths you have to cover with the Hellions, and it becomes more and more difficult because there's always downtime when you're rotating from one side to another, and Reynor will not have a lot of downtime on that. So Oliveira's got his work cut out for him, keeping this in control, and Reynor just pulls back from breaking the rocks. Hellions have to back away. Oliveira's got a 3rd command center landed. He's done a very nice economic build himself. And his first 2 Cloak Banshees heading down to try and deny that 4th base in the corner.
Yeah, which they might have been able to do if Reynor wasn't already on top of it. When it is such a fresh base, those 2 Banshees can actually kind of catch the Zerg off guard. They didn't send their queens quite fast enough, or they were distracted by something else happening. And then it can be a fresh, very clean kill, or cancel, I suppose. But not only is the hatchery a little farther gone, but the queens are there, and the Overseer. However, the Hellions coming as well was the surprise. Reynor a little late with the backup queens, but ultimately does save that hatchery.
2 queens for a Banshee. Not too bad for Oliveira, but you definitely wanted to try and get a little bit more. He was not expecting that Overseer to be so quick down there. And this Banshee does get pushed back as well. The map is slowly turning purple as the creep spread gets out there. And Oliveira going into Marine Tank. Tanks fantastic with their positioning on this map, but Reynor's already up at that 74, now 75 workers. He is known for, if he gets a little bit of an advantage, he is the master of pushing that greed right to the absolute limits of what's safe.
I'm definitely getting the same feeling that we saw from Gamers Without Borders, which is that, of course, we were very excited to see the rematch, the first rematch since Katowice at that time. But then we did see Reynor just in his element, fixing all the mistakes and letting his mentality get to him. And it was a very clean sweep over Oliveira. That's the feeling I'm getting here. Reynor's definitely in his element. He's actually going to go up to a high very quickly, as Oliveira will also add on a 4th CC very quickly as well. So a very solid macro game here to start us off on Babylon.
No second factory just yet for Oliveira. Going into the armory, single tank production for it now. 4th command center will give some nice progression. Starting to see these Marines group up in the south. Going to look for a poke forward. Doesn't want to get surrounded. It looks like the Hellion's going to protect that siege tank in the rear. Oh, he loves this position. Reynor's immediately setting up a flank, though. He wants to shut this down straight away.
Now, the Hellions are guarding the tanks to make it a little more difficult for those Lings to actually take care of things. 1-1 also completes for the Terran, whereas Reynor is still waiting a good 25 seconds on that one. So it's going to be there for a little while, but the really important thing on this map is that tank doesn't actually reach the hatchery. Then it would be maybe a little bit broken. So this is actually not affecting Reynor directly, but the hope is that indirectly it will affect Reynor. And perhaps even if this continued to stay present, then Oliveira could even back this up. That's probably unlikely. I feel like it is only a matter of time for Reynor. Goes ahead and just, comes around here and takes care of this. He is still setting up that surrounding the Queens, tanks of the initial shots, and there we go. The rest of the Zerg swarm will be coming in here. Grenade actually pops a couple of those Lings and Banelings around, and the tanks are firing away. The singular tank is firing away. A couple of good shots from those Banelings, but it was just too much swarm, and Oliveira is forced back.
Reynor's up on 85 workers, remember. His hive is now finishing. He is absolutely roaring economically. He did forget his +2 melee because he didn't have the gas earlier, having to morph so many Banelings. A big link backstab comes in on the natural of Oliveira right now. Does find a siege tank, but a quick reaction saves it. Hot pickup for Oliveira, doing well. He's got a 4th command center landed and morphed into a planetary, I believe. So he's got a good economy, but he's still lacking a little bit of that follow-through on the infrastructure. Remember, he's got the 8 racks, but no second factory. So no Widow Mines or Hellbats. It's just Marauders coming in, Marines. This is still all about the momentum. Oliveira needs to push in, probably before things like Vipers get on the field in any serious numbers.
Definitely something we've been seeing more of, I would say, in the last, especially 6 months, actually. And Byun is particularly good with this style of play, the factory light style, but you do need to kind of get a strangle on the Zerg going, which so far, Oliveira doesn't really have. He's trying to make some headway to the middle of the map, but Reynor is pretty much ready to at least stall him. He may have to give some ground as far as that creep spread, but with everything he has going on behind this, all the bases, all the drones, 90 of them, as well as that hive technology. I mean, Reynor, with a little bit of supply block, one of the maybe big mistakes so far, it's really set up quite well for the late game. And Oliveira, trying to find a new path to the bottom left, is still trying to get some of that momentum.
It's a small map. There's always the opportunity for these pushes to come across quite fast. Banshee's still alive from the early game, harassing the 6th base in the top. The bio, got to be careful about going too deep on creep here. Oliveira showing some respect, retreats that tank to the high ground. He's going to try and take up that same position from his earlier push. I'd love to see Reynor just backstab, give this base up, and move to the top, because this is a scary spot. If there's anywhere Oliveira's going to take a game-winning fight, it is right here around this ledge.
Yeah, then it's just a little bit of a hop right to that other base, and then suddenly Reynor is once again choked into his natural. So it kind of starts here. If you make the mistake of taking the engagement, and it is a mistake, then evacuation afterward is going to be much more problematic. It's better to just go ahead and cut your losses and say this is too problematic and move away if that is what you have to do. Some Liberator harassment is taken down rather quickly. Reynor still mainly focused on dealing with this push. The tanks have a depth to them. They're lined up behind this bio. I'm noticing a lack of energy on those medevacs, though, in such a bio-centric play. That medevac count is very important.
Yeah, his medevac count is way lower than you normally expect. Normally, Terrans have problems with building too many medevacs. They end up with 14. Only 6, though, a little bit dry on the healing juice. 2 Vipers are getting ready to Blinding Cloud. Reynor's going to go for the backstab, but it's a little bit delayed. It does look like these Marauders and Marines are just getting amazing trades in the bottom. Big backstab comes in. Oliveira is in position. If he can defend the mineral line, he'll be okay, but that's a lot of Banelings.
That is a lot of Banelings. So far, though, it looks like they're not really finding those big connections they're hoping for. The Marauders really helping the tank quite a bit on both the left and right side. And while SCVs did go down, Oliveira is not just on his 4 bases of planetary, he also built those extra bases that will eventually become his 5th and 6th, but also his extra orbitals. So that is something that Oliveira absolutely can replace. He already is. And soon enough, he will be adding in more factory units, just barely not letting that Ling run by go.
Very nice holds by Reynor so far. The backstab getting in, killing another 7 SCVs. He's now up 30 workers, which, as amazing as it is, there is a massive Terran army advantage. The Banelings will do something about it if they can find the center of mass, but Oliveira is doing a good job of staying spread out so far.
You can replace those SCVs, but losing a command center like that is going to be harsh, especially if you can't make any more headway on this frontal push. Reynor still has that creep spread advantage. He has used it wonderfully. The Ling Baneling came in with some of the Hydras backing it up. However, he is running a little low. The Hydras are going to be attacking by themselves. The Queens come in with the transfuses to help out, and some focus fire on the medevacs as well. Means that Oliveira has to be wary, has to back away to his tank line. The supply is still looking dominant for Reynor, as he also now has that army supply lead.
Yeah, this is what Reynor does. If he gets up that early bit of momentum, spreads the creep. Look at this. I mean, Oliveira's been trying to attack all game. There's still massive creep spread all over the map. And Reynor's sitting at above 90 workers all game. His remax was endless. It's not a super gas-heavy style either. Like, he only slowly worked his way up to 8 gases. It was mostly minerals, so he just had an endless swarm of Ling Bane. Very well played by Reynor, and it seems like now the numbers are too far in his favor. Oliveira will no doubt try a push with his 3-3 upgrades, trying to mix in a couple of Widow Mines, but being down 40 workers, Reynor is now re-maxed up in the army supply for one of the first times in this game, and that's going to be brutal for the Terran.
quite a bit up in army supply at this point as well. Oliveira really not able to find another foothold at this point in time. Reynor playing, I mean, probably basically safe, as he doesn't want to overexert himself, and then it's a very small map, especially as they continue to expand outwards. You don't want to let that momentum slip and then suddenly you lose 2 hatcheries. But really, Reynor is in a dominant position. Oliveira is the one that kind of has to puff up his feathers and be like, I'm scary, I swear, while he actually recovers from all that just happened in the last minute.
Watching Reynor's hands is mesmerizing. I tell you, it is insane. The speed that he plays at is just absolutely wild, and that's why I love watching the younger generation that's come up in the last 5 years of StarCraft. What they do with their hands, it's next level. Dark has been talking about that a lot. Now he, wants to be a little bit younger. But Oliveira and Reynor, very, very quick right now. Oliveira's getting a remax. He will be able to get a big army. The problem I see here is the Banelings. They are so supply efficient, combined with the usage of the Vipers to shut down the tanks. It's a hard fight for Oliveira, trying to hold on.
He does have an upgrade advantage, and it's a very spread out Terran army, all off of creep as well. A decent Wood-of-Mine shots, but also some Blinding Clouds helping there. It is just a matter of supply, it feels like, as Reynor is forced to back away. His remax potential is insane. Oliveira basically needs to take this opportunity to get some revenge, but that one hatchery is not going to be enough to get that, plus the drones, plus the army, then perhaps we have a stew going, and it is going to be the hatchery before Oliveira has to back away. Hopefully he got something repairing that top right command center as well. I believe he did.
It's still not. It's on 50 hit points.
Oh
on the
my
right.
gosh, it is. There we go, there we go, there we go.
Shout out to the observers leaving that selected so we could track the hit points in the bottom right. Absolutely fantastic job in the observing room. Very hard position to be in here for Oliveira. There is always the hope on Babylon, a small map that, you know what, just turtle up, hang on. There's not that many resources for Reynor to suck up if I could drag this out for another 15 minutes. But this time, right now, down 20 army supply. It's all about just having the best possible engagements. Holding on, you got to think of that campaign mission. You know, this is the last mission in Wings of Liberty. There's endless swarms. You have to be crazy efficient.
This is the point in time where the Terran really feels like they don't have all the fingers, on the ledge, right? They're still barely hanging on, but Reynor's basically stomping on his last, pinky finger to try and get him to let go. And if Oliveira can actually get both hands on the ledge, then he has a chance. But Reynor just keeps on stopping it. Now deleting that planetary in the top right, finally, as well as the SCVs. Oliveira, once again, forced to really pressure and hope that something comes out of his army being so offensive.
Oliveira is ahead in the army supply slightly. Banelings, though, really give you a false idea of their strength. Only half an army supply each. Their power, though, is much higher than that. Oh, Greatling backstab finds a siege tank and a pack of SCVs. Small trades like this are going to be amazing for Reynor. He doesn't really want to fight head-on because his worker count is so high that his army's a little bit smaller. So, he's just like, oh, look for small fights, look for the efficient fights. Widow-Mines there do go off, but none of those absolutely massive good spreadies from Reynor just to mitigate the damage. And we haven't found a single Widow-Mine really hitting that big 20 Baneling hit that Oliveira is digging for right now.
Yeah, there's basically one decent hit, I feel like, in this game. And otherwise, not so much. And that also goes back to a relatively low Widow-Mine count, starting off on one factory for so long, and then as he was starting to add on those the factory units, that was when the momentum really shifted, and Reynor got all that damage done. And Oliveira's been recovering ever since. So far, only able to grab that hatchery that he once again grabs, but Reynor's going to take the opportunity again off of creep. He doesn't care. He's got the supply. He's got the trades, more importantly, so that even if this does not do it, the next one will. In this case, this battle will do it. Reynor grabs that 1-0 lead.
Might have been a slower start to the day than Reynor had wanted, but he does get vibe in there. You can see very happy with that performance. A tsunami of Banelings to finish it off. Always something you like to see as a Zerg player. Oliveira played very well, but that Ling backstab on the base, I think, did force him to maybe push in a little bit harder than he wanted to. He was going up to 5 bases in that game. He had a pretty good position on the map, but Reynor started to just outposition him, took out the mineral line on the third once or twice. The command center burned down, and from there, Oliveira tried to force the issue, but Reynor had such a big bank, he was able to remax a lot better than Oliveira, and that ended up favoring him in the long run, whereas Oliveira needed to slow things down and kind of just let the position be perfect for the engagements. Don't give Reynor anything close to an even fight or he'll run away with the game.
It did feel like Oliveira was really hoping something would unsettle Reynor a little bit more. So basically, this was the closest he got to unsettling Reynor. grabbing these queens. The Hellions kind of came in for the surprise, but with Reynor able to keep up not just 4 base mining, but also getting his 5th at this point in time while taking out that 1 tank push, it really just felt like Reynor, as I had said, was in his element. So even if things got a little weird afterward, it would still be okay. And it never really got weird. Reynor was in mostly control of the game, willing to sacrifice that top base, no problem, for the greater good. That was his late game ZVT. Oliveira not really able to show a lot of that tempo that you're talking about. So he tried, he definitely made some of the right maneuvers, but didn't really have a lot of the right substance to it.
Yeah, I've just been thinking, like, what else could Oliveira have done that game? And looking at that first push in the bottom left, I do think if the Marines just went straight in and started attacking the hatchery, it could have forced Reynor to engage a little bit more haphazardly, or at least given the base up. Got a bit more value out of that first push, because it felt like he was kind of expecting Reynor to get impatient and jump on it. He didn't. Reynor took his time, set up the perfect fight, and so that is what led to him getting control of the match. Great game 1. One more game to close out the series and get himself to a 1-1 scoreline in this format. Down in the bottom right side, representing Basilisk, it's Reynor.
In the top left is the blue Terran. Now down a game, he is DKZ's Oliveira.
Dragon Scales is a map which is going to be very interesting. It has some good tank positions, some really nice multi-drop angles as well if Oliveira wants to go down that path. And Reynor, of course, going for the classic hatchery first opening. I really feel that, yeah, definitely you've got to be a little cavalier sometimes against Reynor, because he is always towing that line of greed. That's part of Reynor's style. I will be so greedy, you feel like you have to stop me being greedy, and then I can just focus on, you know, shutting down that one big attack, and then I'm away. I'm head and shoulders ahead in the race, you know?
Yeah.
It's not the slow, calculated play of someone like Cyril, where he's kind of playing a safe work account. Reynor's like, no, I've got safe workers plus 10. And if you don't do anything about it right now, like, you know, you're the one who's feeling the pressure to come and stop me, because I'm going to run away with the game, which is what he did in the last one. 90 workers way too early, and felt like unlimited Zerg units.
Yeah, a lot of what happened in their best of 5, the great upset, was that Oliveira was able to unsettle him for the overall best of 5, and then find a lot of things that unsettled Reynor in the games that he ended up winning, so the last 3. So that means that basically that Reynor kept doing something similar to all the ZVTs he had played previously, and Oliveira was, as I said on stream, talking about it and saying like, oh, well, like, we had talked about this on my other Terran friends, and I picked up on this, and I picked up on that, so I've let the tank home that I know his run by would be ineffective. Yeah. You know, it was very smart, and it really worked out when it needed to work out on that, you know, the last life that he had to bring it back. But then, as you were just pointing out, Reynor maybe has learned to kind of shake up the decision making a little bit, so he doesn't just pull the trigger, he waits and says, you know what, I don't have to take this on. Which perhaps if he had, then Oliveira's like, I got you again.
Yeah.
But Reynor's, you know, maybe just mixing up the way that he uses the units, the way that he engages, and it's Oliveira who unfortunately is coming out on the losses recently against Reynor. We'll see if things can change on Dragon Scales.
Yeah, Reynor's been, you know, he's learned a lot from those big losses as well. Going back and, you know, he's been putting out videos on his YouTube doing analysis of those big games and losses, and always giving props to his opponents, but undoubtedly does slip in a little bit of analysis of his own mistakes. And, you know, for him, the big takeaway in that big series was there was a lot of fights he took that he did not need to take. You know, he was saying like, oh, I really messed up this and this, but even then, I didn't need to fight, and if I just gave up this base, like, I'd still be in it with a good chance, but he kind of kept getting baited into fighting. And I almost feel like that's just Zerg versus Terran in general at high level. As Terran pushes, they set up an amazing position on a ledge with tanks and Marine spread, and they poke some units forward and they say, please come and attack into this terrible position. And it's kind of on the Zerg to find a way around giving them what they want.
Yeah, I feel like we saw that with Reynor versus Here Marine in the round of 4 of the previous Katowice.
Yes.
There was a couple of those. And we saw it at Youngspan, actually, when he kind of let that game go against Björn as well.
Yeah.
Like, he does have to relearn the lesson every so often. But when he does, you know, he keeps it in his head for however many months, and then it's a matter of who he faces in those months and how big of a tournament. But today it does seem like it's, you know, it's going very well for Reynor, as he once again gets as comfy as Zerg can, as Oliveira goes for the same exact build, I believe, as last game.
Yeah, does look very, very similar. We'll see. He does sometimes like to skip Cloak, and so far that hasn't started up, so it might be just a safety Banshee. or even 2, and then just kind of getting a little bit faster stim, a bit extra minerals into that next step, speeds up when you're going to be hitting those marine tank attacks. Ooh, nice snipes on the creep tumors, bouncing those queens so they can't do too much. The Overlord does go down, though it did scout in, I believe, and see the starport.
I was going to say, it would have been really close. They didn't actually see it, so a little bit more ambiguous. And then the follow-up as well is going to be a Raven, not that second Banshee. So I was going to bring up how perhaps it's going to go into maybe slightly faster tank production and have maybe 2 faster than expected, so on and so forth. But no, not the case. It's actually going to be a Raven, which is still very, like, it's a different approach to things. Still have a better job of cleaning up that creep spread, maybe a little bit more harassment around the natural, I guess, as a bit of a ledge you can abuse if you wanted to. But a little bit more of sticking to the map control and less about, you know, potentially diving, which is what he ended up doing in the last game.
Yeah, I feel like there's a real problem. I was talking about how if the creep gets past a certain point, it like doubles the number of lanes that it's on basically, and you just can't slow it down with Hellions. Even with 2 squads of Marines, you're using scan after scan, and that hurts as a Terran because every scan, you could use that energy instead for a mule, gets you 225 minerals. Ooh, does poke forward at the front. You don't want to take too many hits like that. Oliveira's got to be tight on that control. But 3 drones with a Banshee is a nice pickup.
Actually, yes, I would say so, because of course that Banshee, if it survives later on, can scout for run-bys or, you know, help against them, obviously. Oh, Reynor gonna really change things up, going for that missile, going into... Does he actually have the Roachborn right now?
Oh,
no, he doesn't.
What?
So I was ready to go into it, but then I kind of had to hold back, and I still assume it's going to be roaches, but...
Oh, he's forgotten it, though.
It does kind of feel that way. It's a little awkward. Well, he was defending against everything on the front lines, as well as the Banshee, and sizing up for a run-by, which was only so successful. Okay, well, this one's going to be pretty good. Couple of mules, couple of SCVs left alone at that 3rd base.
2 fresh mules, 5 SCVs. That's pretty big, Zombie Grub. He does remember the Roachborn now. But look how greedy he's been. He's got a 4th base almost finished. He's going up to 70+ workers. As long as he can get those roaches and roach speed on time, I mean, he's going to have an absolutely amazing potential to swarm. And remember, Oliveira has seen Zerglings, lots of them. Lots of queens, lots of Zerglings, lots of drones. This all makes you think Lingbane, Lingbane, Lingbane. Roaches are the last thing on your radar. Rogue used to be a master at doing this. He'd always pretend he was playing Lingbane, surprise you with 30 roaches and just win the game.
It is a little of an awkward build, though, from Reynor. Not only does he have so much supply, which is going to go into roaches eventually, of course, but also banking quite a bit. Yeah. As you said, like the Roachborn coming down is, you know, the worry was that, well, it wouldn't be ready for this push, of course, but I was also thinking roach speed, but now we're going to talk about this push and not having the army that you were supposed to be building this entire time. Oliveira finding almost a freebie. He might not be really believing it, but he still goes for it, finds a hatchery by the looks of things, all before 21, 24 roaches pop out to handle it.
Honestly, this is best case scenario for Reynor. Losing a hatchery is not that important. He does get a few SCVs with the link backstab. The queens don't need to be fighting here, but if he can overwhelm the tank, that'd be great. Reynor does not need to fight here. He's already lost the hatchery. He wanted to protect those roaches as he popped out, and he escorts them away from the base, using the queen energy to keep that alive. Beautiful play by Reynor. This was obviously a massive mistake on his build, forgetting the Roachborn, but losing a hatchery doesn't really matter. You've got mass roach.
Oh, no.
You didn't lose your drones. You're catching the army, including a tank on the way home. Oliveira is massively outnumbered now.
This is like the off timing, you know? You mess up your DT build, but because it's 60 seconds late, the other guy's like, what? I don't understand. Like, this is definitely surprised Oliveira. Things have quickly taken a turn for the worse as he also runs his medevacs into the awaiting arms of the queens. Both of them go down, and Reynor is just getting ready to go onto Oliveira's 3rd base with all of the roaches he was finally able to build with all of their upgrades. It's only a matter of time, and Oliveira is woefully low on that bio count.
You can see Oliveira was not happy with the way that one unfolded. Does finally remember his +2 attack upgrade. It's mass 1-1 Roach Ravager Queens coming across the map. Reynor at double the army supply. That is going to be a problem. The Marines will get in and do a lot of damage behind it, but at home, Oliveira is absolutely overrun. That is way too much Roach Ravager.
The anti-armor missile will be very effective against this composition, but only if you had more units. That is the problem. The two tanks get taken down. The bio gets back into the main base, but when I say the bio, I meant 4 units on the medevac. Not very impressive. Reynor finally deals with the drops on this side of the map, and he still has this huge Roach Ravager army on the doorstep of Oliveira. Oliveira gonna try to hold that high ground, but with what exactly? Just a few bio reinforcements.
Yeah, I mean, you could pull the Drilly Boys in an emergency. Normally, in this case, almost all the Drilly Boys are gone. 40 of them have gone down. No siege tanks out. A handful of Marines unloading, trying to make a valiant defense, but he is forced out. Reynor with a crazy Roach build catches him off guard and closes out the series.
Yeah, unfortunately, Oliveira, there might have been, I really would have loved to have been able to hear his thought process for those exact 10 seconds where he's like, wait, there's something here. Oh, okay, I can get a hatchery. Wait, no, there is stuff here. Oh, no, that's not a roaches. You know, I would have loved to have been able to hear it, but of course, he is unfortunately at a loss here now on 0-2, now going into his last life in the Swiss format.
No doubt a lot of confused grunts and question marks is how, if I was in Oliveira's shoes, because you're like, where's the army at? And then suddenly, you know, so many roaches just erupt onto the map. Catches him off guard though, and I always love that style traditionally. I really feel like Rogue did it so many times on the big stage in years past, and Reynor's been a master of it in the last few years. Just, it looks so much like a Ling Bane build. A lot of players might even get tricked into going Widow Mines, which you do not want against Roach Ravager. You need those siege tanks. And in general, if you get caught being overly aggressive, Roaches are so good at swarming over that, and then they explode across with the counterattack. Exactly what we saw in that game.
At the end of the day, it really does revolve around that successful hiding of the Roach Warren and then being able to actually collect them all together to get the counterattack in. But now, let's go ahead and get to the interview.
We're here with our winner, Reynor, and I have to ask, with such a storied history between you two, coming to this match, did you prepare a lot for Oliveira in particular? Are you playing the odds or playing the man?
I actually played a lot against Oliveira in practice, so it was a little bit unfortunate I found him. And yeah, he's a very good player. He relies a lot on speed and mechanics, so I thought as long as I'm faster than him and I play cleaner, I should win. But it's not easy, you know.
زي ما تشوفون اعزائي المشاهدين، رينر كان معنا في المقابله بعد ما فاز 2-0 على اوليفيرا. سالنا السؤال الاول، كيف قدرت انك تجهز المباراه هذه خصوصا بالهيستوري اللي موجود بينكم؟ يقول لا صراحه انا في التدريبات للبطوله هذه انا لعبت ضد اوليفيرا مره كثير، وكانت انا عارف شيء واحد فقط، اني لازم اني العب اسرع منه وانظف منه وبقدر اني افوز في المباراه، وهذا اللي صار فعلا.
Now, practicing against Oliveira, can you give us a little more insight into kind of what involved in that? And did you guys practice specifically for this event? That's sort of a general thing?
Yeah, we played quite a bit for this event, actually. Honestly, he was playing on the European server, so he had around 120 ping. So the matches were not really fair, but we also played in the hotel rooms here, so we actually played quite a bit. But yeah, specifically for this event.
سألنا أيضا رينر السؤال الثاني في المقابلة، يتكلم عن التدريبات اللي هو سواها مع أوليفيرا، هل كانت مخصصة للبطولة هذه فقط ولا بس بشكل عام جالسين يتدربون؟ كان يقول إنه لا إحنا فعلا تدربنا عشان البطولة هذه فقط، لكن يوم كنت ألعب ضده كان البنج حقه جدا عالي لأنه هو يلعب في السيرفر الأوروبي بنجه 120، فيوم جينا هنا برضو لعبنا مع بعض في الفندق وقدرنا إننا نتدرب ونجهز البطولة هذه زي ما إحنا شفنا.
Well, I have to ask if you're feeling a bit more yourself now that you got a win under your belt heading into the rest of the groups?
Oh, definitely. I actually put my heart and soul into this event, so I thought starting with a loss was not the best, but I actually recovered myself. I think I played a lot smoother, but also the losses against Classic were just unfortunate. I think he obviously played very well, but game one, I think I was ahead most of the game, and then I messed up with one fight, and game two, I did not prepare for that. You know, I didn't prepare for me to do that. You know, I went outside the script. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I don't know. But yeah, so unfortunate loss. He obviously played well, but still.
زي ما تشوفون سؤالنا الثالث في المقابله كنا نتكلم عن تجهيزاته للبطوله هذه بشكل عام، وهو بنفسه هل يشوف انه في فرصه انه يفوز البطوله؟ يقول صراحه انا يعني ما ادري شلون انا بديت البطوله اصلا بخساره، وانا فعلا حطيت كل شيء عندي عشان اقدر افوز في هذه البطوله، ادي اداء كويس، فضاق صدري صراحه اني فزت او خسرت الجيم الاول معليش، وبالاخير قدرت اني اعوض بفوزي على اوليفيرا في المباراه هذه، لكن انا جاهز جدا للبطوله.
Well, the will of the groups is the will of the groups. Unfortunately, you did end up against Oliveira here, someone you practiced a lot with. Anyone else that you did a lot of practice with that you would not be interested in meeting later on?
Well, I mostly practiced against people that were not in this event, such as Harstem, Lambo, and many others. But obviously, I don't want to play Serol yet, because he's my teammate, and we know each other quite well, even though we don't play much. Also, let me think. I don't think there's anyone else really. That doesn't come to mind. Yeah, not really, but yeah, I just don't want to play Serral yet.
زي ما شفنا أعزائنا المشاهدين سألنا السؤال الأخير في المقابلة عن مين اللاعبين اللي هو يحاول إنه يتجنب إنه يواجههم، لأنه أوليفيرا هو يقول بما إني أتدرب ضده كثير أنا ما أبغى إني أواجهه، لكن واجهته بالأخير. لكن سألنا مين في أحد ثاني غيره، لكن كان الجواب إنه صراحة ما أشوف إنه في أحد ممكن إني ما أحب ألعب ضده إلا سيرال، لأنه هو التيميت حقي، وصحيح إن ما نلعب ضد بعض كثير إلا إنه أنا ما أحب إنه يعني نلعب ضد بعض، إنه نعرف بعض بشكل جدا كويس. بس غير سيرال ما أنا دائما أتدرب عند أو مع أشخاص هم أصلا ما هم موجودين في البطولة.
Well, shout out to everyone that you did practice with, and I'm all for saving the Serral match for much later too. That's a nice dessert to have at the end.
Yeah, it really is.
يعطيكم العافية أعزائنا المشاهدين. جاء الوقت إن نروح في ذا الاستوديو نتكلم أكثر على وش اللي ممكن يصير في البطولة، ونشوف كيف قدر رينر إنه يفوز 2-0 ضد أوليفيرا.
And there we go. It's a stone cold stunner coming out from Reynor as he's able to take out Oliveira, the current world champion, in a 2-0. Joining me, Loco, as well as Wardy, to talk about this one. Loco, this was pretty much very clean here from Reynor going up against Oliveira, I would say.
Yeah, you make a couple mistakes here and there. I mean, losing the Metavex is not really a small mistake, I suppose, right? But yeah, you make mistakes, so you get punished for it right away. This was, in general, I guess, sort of the series we expected, right? I mean, that run at Katowice was absolutely amazing, but overall, Reynor does strike me as the better player.
You know what it is? Oliveira has to go down 0-2 against Reynor before he wins. Messed
best
over
of
by
three.
the format, yes. Nah, I said I preferred Reynor coming in. And there was a couple moments, maybe game 2, definitely felt like Oliveira had some good momentum, but he made the mistakes, man, and that's just what, you know, that's what Reynor's not going to do in this series, right? That's the big difference.
I mean, that's the funny thing about game 2. I mean, obviously we're watching game 1 here, but we're looking at game 2 before the Roach War and before the Roaches and everything like that. I feel that there's this moment where Oliveira is paying a lot of respect to Reynor, without like pushing very aggressively into like 3 queens up a ramp, where he has loads of units where he probably could have done something, but he just respects the idea that he should have had more units behind it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you saw the moment right there where the Metavex ended up getting sniped by the queens. He just simply didn't expect him in that moment.
Yeah.
I think Reynor could have played very aggressively if he wanted to, but honestly, this was mostly just him reacting, right? He's like, hey, my opponent just gave me about 20 supply worth of units, and if that's the case, I'll go ahead and punish him for it. Yeah, it doesn't take much at this level of play.
No, like nice and cleaned up here, looking good as Reynor. As we said at the very beginning of this, it would have been very surprising if Reynor, of all people, would have gone down 0-2 in this kind of format. He said, even in that interview as well, Wardy, that he's put his heart and soul into this tournament. It means a lot to these players, considering the grand nature of the stage that we're on here for Gamers8.
I completely believe it too, man. He's been very serious. You log on to StarCraft, and if he's on your friend list, you see him in custom games, right? He's been grinding for this event, so yeah, no shocker there. He gets the job done. I'm excited to see who he pairs up against, because everyone in this, like, you know, yet to play still, that's currently 1-0.
Yes.
They're all really good players, but some of them have to drop down to play somebody like Reynor, which is wild.
And of course, other results that were coming in, Eliza versus Dark was on the B stream as well. Dark 2-1 against Eliza. Eliza always able to take a good scrap in ZVZ, but Dark prevails.
Yeah, he always plays a bit of a funny style in Zerg versus Zerg too, right? Delaying his evolution chambers and just playing it a little bit differently. So I don't think it's too surprising to see him taking a map there, but I do believe that Dark was the favorite going into that one.
Yeah, looking all right is Dark here. And again, I think it'd be weird if we saw Dark, I suppose, go down 0-2 in a tournament like this.
Yeah, of course it would be, man. Dark's pretty good. Once upon a time, Benjamin Baker told me there was an up-and-comer to watch out for.
Yeah.
When was this?
About 2020, 2021.
And then every time,
like after he won the World Championships?
He had a few results under his belt, but he let me know there was this up-and-comer to watch out for. Dark. And because of that, I would never have expected Dark to be 0-2. Yeah.
Who would have guessed here in Rio? Anyway, no, I'm not going to continue this on. All right, we're going to a break, guys. When we return, we have got more on the way. Stay tuned for awesome StarCraft here at Gamers8.